We're going to take just a few minutes here to look at some of the output of debug crypto ISAKMP and IPsec. Of course, we're looking at IKE phase 1 with the first debug, IKE phase 2 with the second. We're going to run them both, so when I send a ping here, you might want to cover your eyes if you're averse to scrolling, because hopefully there will be plenty of it. Let me straighten that up, and you can see I let everything time out, so right now we don't have any kind of SAs between routers 2 and 3. Let's go ahead and run those debugs. Crypto ISAKMP and debug crypto IPsec. Again, you can run these separately. I'm just going to run them both so we can see the entire situation here, phase 1 and then phase 2. And here we go. And some more will come across here as soon as this pings. That is odd. And I'll go ahead and send another one right behind it. Dun, dun, dun. See how much is going on behind the scenes? A lot of it. And you can see here some essays here at the end. We are going to go back through it. Let me send a ping over and we're all good there. I'm going to scroll up now, so cover your eyes if you're not into that kind of thing, because there's plenty of that kind of thing here. Again, this is not something you have to know every single thing that's going on here, but you can also see a couple of interesting values here. Outbound local, here's 10112, and then 500. I don't believe that I've mentioned that port number to you, and this is a bit of a segue into a couple of port numbers and a couple of protocol numbers that you should know, and we will see those at the end of this particular lab. And just going down, you can see, it actually tried to start aggressive mode first, and then it's trying main mode, and then everything's good. And what you can also see as you go through here, let me do a UAll because we're going to get tiny little notes here. I'll go back up. UAll, of course, short for undebug all. You'll start to see this MM increment as you go through it. It's MM1, here's MM2. So we're going through the main mode sub-stages, if you will. And let's see, let's go on down here. Here's checking, ISAKMP transform 1 against priority 1 policy. There are some values that we entered, and we even get a message attributes are acceptable. So that's the kind of thing we like to see. Let's go on down here. You can then see IKE process complete. There's that port 500 again, and I promise we're getting to that soon. Just scrolling down a little bit here, you can see SA, our security association, is doing pre-shared key authentication. So we got that going on at this point. Going down here, we see authentication status authenticated, which is a good authentication status when you want authentication, that is. And going on down from here, here's quick mode, and we know that's the one mode of IPsec. And you can see now we're looking at the transform sets, which makes sense. So we're definitely in phase 2. We see some proposals going on here. And going on down, no error, we like no error. And we see a number 50 being mentioned here. I don't think we mentioned a 50 earlier either. I bet you can guess what that is even if you don't already know. And then finally down here you can see actually the essays are created. And note, the destination for one is 10112, the other 10113. So again, we have unidirectional essays going on there. So just a little behind the scenes stuff there. Again, those two debugs, I'll put them on the screen here for you, are debug crypto ISAKMP and debug crypto IPsec. Now those numbers of interest that we saw, I want to mention these three to you, and then I'm going to throw in a fourth at no additional charge. It's one we didn't see because we haven't used it yet. Okay? So let's see, we've got UDP port 500, and that is ISAKMP phase 1. So if you put an ACL in the way of your VPN and all of a sudden it's not working, you might have to open UDP port 500 to make that happen. Now these are protocol numbers, not port numbers that go with ESP and AH. And while we never even had to enter these manually, we did the transform sets and our priorities and all that stuff, we didn't have to enter 50 or 51, but I think they're good numbers for you to know for your exam. Protocol 50 being ESP, protocol 51 being AH. Now about that other number I didn't mention. We haven't done something called NAT traversal yet, and that is NAT, the network address translation. And we're going to talk about that later in the course, but I want to mention the port number now because it's similar to the ISAKMP phase 1 port. NAT traversal is going to use UDP port 4500, so be very careful about that on exam day. UDP port 500 again, ISOCEMP phase 1. UDP port 4500 will be for NAT traversal. Now coming up next, we're going to talk briefly about the Diffie-Hellman and exactly how we're getting the secure key exchange, if that's exactly what it is, over a non-secure channel. Then right after that, we're going to return to some VPN creation, but we're going to do some walkthroughs on a GUI. So we've got a lot of great stuff coming up. Take a deep breath and I'll see you on the next vid.